So if you're going to carry a blade, the question comes up, should you carry a fixed blade or should you carry a folder? Which one is best for you? All right, so this is a common question that is brought about, especially when I am showing off a lot of the Skallywag products. We have fixed blades and we have folders. I obviously have personally designed my own versions of both. And a lot of times the question does come up, should I carry a fixed blade or should I carry a folder for personal protection? And instead of asking all of the personal questions to obtain the information to apply the best answer for that person, which I can't do with video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 3 strengths for both the fixed blade and the folder. By providing you with that type of information, at the end of the video, I can then provide a little bit more guidance on what is best. This is obviously going to be focused on those of you that are at the entry level trying to make this type of a decision. For those of you that have a lot of experience carrying tools for personal protection, or you are an instructor, you're obviously not trying to decide which one of these bladed tools is best for you, but you may find some value in this video because I am going to discuss how I provide information to my students so that I do not influence them based off of my personal carry. The biggest part about these videos is a lot of times I'm approaching it for what is best for the general public. A lot of times instructors tend to talk about what they personally will carry based off their experience, and there's a whole level of bias that goes directly to that, and in turn what happens is it becomes unrealistic for their student to carry it, even though it does make sense why you carry what you carry. So let's get into the first part, which is going to be the 3 strengths for our fixed blades. All right, so fixed blades and the 3 strengths. Now remember, I am talking about carrying this on your person, not in your purse, not in your fanny pack, not in your sling bag, not in the glove compartment, not sitting at home. I'm talking about on you so that you can access it, because this is for personal protection, right? The 3 strengths that we're talking about are going to be deployability, usability, and reliability. So the first one's going to be deployability. Because it's a fixed blade, what happens is there's going to be a bunch of different ways that you can carry this thing, especially if you've done your due diligence with setting up your gear. What I mean by that is if you're going to carry a fixed blade, you're going to need a proper belt. If you don't have what is basically a gun belt, then you're going to have a hard time having consistent draws, and all of your training, well, it's inconsistent. Because if you get a good dress belt, even the thicker leather belts, they will eventually warp as they go around your body, and as they wear over time, they start to mold to the contours of your body. Whereas a gun belt is designed for holding and bearing heavy objects such as a pistol or your magazines or knives. You're going to have multiple different ways for you to carry this. You normally have your Kydex sheath, and then you'll have some sort of attachment. This is for IWB, meaning in the waistband. What would happen is it would go behind your waistband, and then this would insert into your belt like this, and it would sit usually at an angle. What happens is once I place my hand on it and I draw, it's just ready to go, ready to place directly into said person. You can lock the same type of sheath in or the same type of soft loop and now have it as an OWB, which is over the waistband. That means that when I place this directly on top like this, it sits in front. For those of you that have shirts that go over the top, then this concealability is obviously there, and from that point, drawing this into my hand is going to be very, very quick. If you do not carry a belt, which most females don't, and if you like to wear jogging shorts and stuff like that, you are either going to have to drive to companies that focus on concealed carry, which is not a problem, it's just very specific. But once again, it is gear driven for the fixed blade. But if that is the case, then what happens is your fixed blade is always going to win out on top. This is deployability. Your second strength is always going to be your usability. And what does that mean? Well, usability means when it's in your hand, how comfortable is it to actually use? right? This goes hand in hand with deployability, right? So one of the things about deployability is that a fixed blade usually has a larger handle, and therefore your ability to get a positive contact on that draw is always going to be there. But when you have a larger blade, or a blade that's designed to feel good in your hand when you're fighting with it, you're going to have a size that allows you to feel comfortable to deal with somebody that may have a tool in their hand, right? And so when you're using this as a people opener and starting to apply, say, knife to knife contact, utilizing it in multiple opponents, what happens is, because of the larger handle, your damage that's applying is going to be maximized. You feel comfortable with this in your hand. It's not too small where you have to get too close. In turn, what happens is you get a good feel on grip. So what happens is you can really torque behind that, so that when it's inside someone, you can really just dig around and tickle them on the inside, right? And so that is usability of that blade, using it for its design purpose. Many people who do a lot of knife techniques where the knife is the primary tool or weapon obviously pushes closer to this. You will find that there's a similar argument for pistols, meaning, which one should I carry for my personal carry? Should I carry this Staccato C2, which is technically still a carry pistol, or should I carry this SIG 365 XL, which is a compact pistol? In turn, what happens is you'll notice that this pistol here is very large. It feels great in my hand. I can drill nails with this thing. This thing basically shoots for me. I shoot very well with this thing, because if I were to focus more on what I shoot more accurately with, more comfortably with, the thing that I would like to actually utilize in a real scenario where I'm guaranteed to pull the trigger, then obviously I would want to have this in my hand. Unfortunately, this is going to be a little bit more concealable. It's going to be something that I'm going to be more comfortable carrying on a regular basis. And so when people start talking about that, they start talking about things. And then you talk about this is a 365 normal, right? SIG 365. The difference between this type of pistol and this is just ridiculous as far as size goes. But the thing is that when people start to discuss one or the other for concealed carry, it's not necessarily that you can't conceal the larger pistol. It's just that the fact of the matter is that on the range, utilization of that is going to be much better for the Staccato or larger frame pistol than it is going to be for the smaller or subcompact pistol. The subcompact pistol is not usually going to be something that you can shoot as accurately. And even if you are very good at that, at shooting that subcompact, you're still always going to be better shooting with a large full frame pistol in your hand at that point. And it's the same thing when you are talking about utilizing blades. The fact is that I'm always going to, if I wanted to have a solid blade in my hand and be comfortable with this in a situation where I know that I'm using it, yes, this is going to be more reliable as far as utilizing it for personal protection than something this small or smaller. Unfortunately, that's not the only thing that is applied to concealed carry. In fact, concealed carry means that you're going to be carrying it more than you are going to be shooting it or using it as far as a blade is concerned. I'm still in the shooting thought process. All right, so that covers your usability. And then your third strength is reliability. What does that mean? Fact is that most of your blades that are well designed are full tang blades that go all the way through the handle. That means it's one piece of metal and then there is some sort of handle. This is G10 on this one. And so what happens is there's nothing mechanical. There is no failure point. Basically, the only failure point that you technically could have is mismanagement of the attachment system in the sheath. And so as long as everything is locked in and you have proper belt on, it's not going to fail on you, right? And so the thing is that you can't go any more reliable than that. A folder is always going to have mechanical issues. Your opening system may not actually open all the way. You may fumble fuck that scenario in a life and death situation, but the fixed blade is going to be extremely reliable as far as getting it into the fight and then using it and knowing that it's not going to have issues. Those are your three strengths. You have deployability, usability, and reliability. Let's get into our folders. All right, so on folders, our three strengths are going to be concealability, comfortability, and explicability. On that third one, I thought it was explainability. Google proved me wrong, and it's explicability. The ability to explain why the damn thing's on you, right? Let's get into the first one, which is concealability. Now on concealability, all I mean by that is there are multiple places for you to carry this, and it is easy for you to conceal this so that in comparison to a fixed blade. There are multiple places to carry a folder. If you have normal pants on your strong side, your weak side, right behind the belt buckle, your rear pocket. For those of you that may be wearing some sort of active wear, you can carry this around the waistline. For the females, notice I did not say that those of you that had, active wear like that was just males. But for the females, you can place one of these directly in the side on your bra strap if you're wearing a dress. There's just a lot of different places that you can conceal a folder because it folds directly in half and it is a smaller profile. Because of that, it allows for more options, and that provides you with a number of different ways to work on this. And then the other thing is that you can draw this directly into your hand, especially at limited visibility at night when you're going to your vehicle, and your ability to hide something in your hand and be able to talk to somebody if you feel that danger is imminent is always going to be easier with a folding blade than it is with a fixed blade, right? And so the thing is that is concealability. Now, concealability does move directly into comfortability. Basically, like I said, you are concealing this more often because it is a everyday carry or an all-day carry type thing. So it needs to be comfortable. If you are not comfortable carrying this, regardless of the scenario, then what happens is you're going to pick and choose the times that you carry it directly on you. And this also plays into the size of the tool that you're carrying. For a lot of you, the blade is not the only thing that you carry. A lot of times I talk to individuals and they are concealed carrying a pistol, which means they're usually carrying an extra magazine, which means that they're also carrying this blade, which also means that they're carrying their keys and their wallet and their phone. And then they have their lipstick and their makeup and their hair products and then their extra tampons and all this other stuff. And what happens is things become a little uncomfortable as you carry that on a regular basis because all of those things need to be accessible to the tactical individual. Now, what happens is when you start thinking about what is comfortable, what will you carry all the time, a folder tends to be easier to work on. So that second thing also plays into comfortability of somebody carrying it if they're not used to carrying a weapon. So some of you don't fall into this, but for the ladies that I teach, or for anybody thinking about trying to provide tool like an edge weapon to someone they care about, a lot of times this is the first tool that they're carrying. So to get them to carry a pistol on them from nothing to a pistol is almost impossible. That usually means that they're going to try to carry it in some sort of bag, whether that be their purse or a backpack or, in the console of their vehicle. It is much easier to take something like a folder, a small folder like this, or even smaller like this, and get them to carry this on a regular basis and then upgrade them as they are more comfortable with that. So the comfortability of having something like this on them versus having something like this, a fixed blade, is always going to be higher with a folding blade than it is a fixed blade. So the third and final thing is going to be explicability. The third strength is going to be explicability, the ability for you to explain this. This also coincides with the law. What is legal? Most of the times, if you were to compare what is more legal one way or the other, and I understand that certain states within the United States have different laws, but the fact is that when you start to lean one way or the other, fixed blades are usually illegal when you start to conceal them, and you need a special type of license. When a folder, as long as you follow their laws, meaning it can only be so long as far as blade length, it cannot be an automatic push button open type thing. As long as you're falling within the rules, what happens is you can usually carry a folder in more places than you can carry a fixed blade. Now, moving past that, you are able to explain away the use of a folder more often than you are a fixed blade. Mainly because a fixed blade usually looks like something that you're going to use to open people up, whereas a folder technically looks like a utility tool as long as it is benign like this. Okay, so in turn, you could probably explain away this and be like, it was a gift that was given to me by my loved one, and in turn, what happened was he gave it to me, and therefore I'm carrying it because, you know, he yells at me if not. Or if you're a guy, you can be like, my wife gave this to me, and then she bitches if I don't have it on me, and so therefore it is, you know, basically why I carry this. You saying that about, say, a fixed blade, you could use that excuse, but this thing looks like it's designed to, like, well, fight with. And it is. And so your ability to explain it if you are caught with it on you, always remember that just because you are legally carrying something does not mean that you are not going to have to explain why you have something on it, especially if it flashes for some odd reason. Everyone makes mistakes. And so that part of explicability falls into what is legal to carry, because always remember, if you carry something for personal protection, you are assuming that you are going to use it to save your life or the life of somebody that you care about. That means that law enforcement will get involved. They will take that weapon away from you. They will do their investigation. And if you are illegally carrying a tool, you are not only going to have to justify use of force, which is the self-defense plea, but you are also then going to be hit with carrying an illegal weapon that is designed for the harm of other people. And normally, if you go to jail, that's probably the thing that you're going to fall under. So you want to carry something that doesn't have to worry about that second part. You are carrying a tool that you're allowed to carry. It's a folder. It falls under all of these guidelines. Or you have a weapons license from, say, Florida that allows you to carry that. And so therefore, you don't have to worry about the illegal part about that. All you have to do is just justify that you use the appropriate force for this scenario. And that's completely based off of your ability to sell that part of the encounter. And so those are your three for your folders, which is concealability, comfortability, and explicability. Let's get into some questions now that you have that information, where I can guide you on whether or not you should be carrying a folder or a fixed blade. All right, so taking all of that into consideration and trying not to give you advice on what I personally would carry, a couple questions are going to be, have you carried before? Is this the first knife that have you carried? Are you used to carrying something like this on a regular basis? Are you going to feel like you're missing something if it's not on you all the time? If the answer is no, you've never carried anything and it's the first time, I would always go towards a folder. I would talk about a folder that is something that you're comfortable having on you, that you believe that you could use for utility, because obviously, even though I would tell you that a personal protection blade should only be used for personal protection, you're not going to do that. So you need a decent, durable blade. And as far as the cost of it, it needs to be something that is expensive enough that you respect the cost of it, so that you know and have a conscious effort of keeping that awareness of where it's at. But it's also not too expensive that you're going to have a heart attack if you ever lose it, because any of us that have carried knives before know that at least at the first couple years of you carrying something, the likelihood of you misplacing that blade is pretty high until you start to create habits that allow you to carry it all the time. If it's not the first time, and you have a higher level of skill, meaning you've trained a lot more, then I would focus more on a fixed blade. A fixed blade that's designed a little bit more towards personal protection. This is going to be a little middle tier towards expense, and focus on something that you know that you're going to carry for personal protection and only for personal protection. Which moves to my next question, which is, are you willing to carry multiple blades? You need to figure out what this blade is going to be for. Is it going to be specifically for personal protection, or is it going to be for personal protection, and is it going to be for utility use? Many of these students that I have that are at the middle middle tier or intermediate skill level and higher carry multiple blades. They carry one for personal protection, and then they carry one for utility. And so what happens is that allows them to have a blade that is extremely sharp, almost right out the box, and something that they consistently can train with, but the blade never dulls. The utility blade will consistently dull. You'll have to sharpen it. Every single time you sharpen a blade, you take away a little bit more of its life. It takes more and more material off of it. And so it is not going to be as reliable over time. And so the thing is if you're going to carry multiple blades, then that's going to be completely different. And so that will allow you to carry a fixed blade and a folder for utility, a fixed blade for self-defense. Are you carrying another tool? Are you carrying a pistol? Are you carrying a pistol and a knife? A lot of times, because of all the stuff that you have to carry, a lot of people will carry a folder in their pocket as well as their pistol, just because where their magazine normally goes is the real estate area for their fixed blade. And so if you have a lower skill level, this is the first time you're carrying or you're just learning how to use a knife, what happens is I would once again push towards folders. But at the very end of this, if you are going to carry a blade, it needs to be a blade that you will always carry. So I really don't care if it's a fixed blade or a folder. The thing is that you now have a good amount of information to make a decision from there. And it is much better to start off at the lower end of the spectrum, meaning carry a folder, get used to it, and then upgrade to something else, than for you to buy a fixed blade off of some knife guru's suggestion, and then realize that there's no way in hell that you're going to carry that in the majority of places that you frequent. And so the thing is that I would err more on the side of comfortability than I would on usability. But that's my thoughts on the differences between the two. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's have a conversation, and I'll see you guys in the next video.